Folks, welcome to the Dalles Area Chamber Community Affairs. This is Thursday, September 4th. The fall is approaching quickly, and there are rumors of rain, one hopes. My name is Dan Spots. On behalf of the Dalles Area Chamber, retired, doing a few other things, and I'm going to go around the room, ask for introductions and organizational updates. And then we'll turn it over to Barbara Telfer, our guest, Commissioner with Fort Dalles Museum, one of our favorite places. Let's go ahead and start with Mr. Roger Nichols.
Thank you very much. Roger Nichols, and I am updating you on the Gorge Commission, which meets next Tuesday. The morning part is due for an appeal from a decision in Clark County, but the main afternoon event will be all of us trying to work out a quick change to the management plan that will allow people who have been burned out to have less restrictions, less hassle, more leeway in getting their houses rebuilt. So that's what's really happening.
That's a big one. Thank you, Roger. There is a staff summary on the Gorge Commission website talking about that amendment.
Mhm.
Julie.
I'm Julie Reynolds. I'm a retired gerontological researcher. So I'm doing volunteer work now. I'm here because of Barbara being on Fort Dalles Museum. She's on the commission, and so am I. I also am working with the St. Paul's Episcopal Church Chapel Planning Group. The chapel is at 5th and Union. It's not been used very heavily, and we're trying to bring it forward as a venue for appropriate events. We've had a cello concert. We're going to have some lectures. That's what we're doing.
That's wonderful. Julie, way back in historic the Dalles days, we used to do tours. We included that on the series of locations. It's a beautiful. I've wondered what's going on there. Thank you.
Yeah, and we're giving tours now that the market is open. People are nearby to come do tours. So we have some trained docents, and on Saturdays, we're getting maybe 10 or 12 people who want to come look at the fantastic windows. It's an 1875 building, the oldest church building in the Dalles. Not the oldest church, but the building survived the 1891 fire because it's up against a bluff.
Wow, that is totally cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. Corliss Marsh.
Morning, Corliss Marsh. I'm with Habitat for Humanity, the Senior Center, and the library. I just want to remind everyone there's a blood drive on next Tuesday at the college. So if you're a blood donor, the college is having one.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Is that all day at the college?
I think so. Major part of the day.
All righty. Thank you, Corliss. Commissioner Phil Brady.
Good morning, Wasco County Commissioner Phil Brady. I'm very interested in our topic today, Barbara, because I'm on the Discovery Center and talking to Discovery Center and talking to Fort Dalles and learning to see if they can work together more. The yesterday we had a Board of County Commissioners meeting, and a key topic was the Basalt Commons, and the City of the Dalles mayor and manager came and urged us to support the Basalt Commons. So we did take efforts in that direction. I won't get into the details, but so we were, and yeah, Basalt Commons is still hopefully going to happen, and the county commission has taken some action to be supportive of that.
You have my acute attention on that topic, Bill.
Yeah. I don't want to get into the details because they're tricky, but
I won't ask you to. I won't ask you to, but speaking of issues to discuss in depth, that might be one. That might be another topic for these forums sometime when we.
Yeah, okay. I don't know if, and I maybe mentioned this last week, but I'm still so excited about it. A doctor, LPN, is signing on to work in Maupin at the Deschutes Rim Clinic, which is going to be fantastic to have a practitioner serving in that area. It's really exciting. And the kind of to put the lock on it, her husband likes to fish and raft, so we're set.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I like that. Thank you, Phil. Tanya Brumley.
Good morning, Tanya Brumley with Northwest Natural Gas. I guess the biggest reminder it would be that September is Emergency Preparedness Month, and just inviting you all to the Get Ready Emergency Preparedness event at the fire station on the 20th. That's from 10 to 1. Lots of opportunity to learn all sorts of things on how to prepare and be ready. So invite you to that. We're serving lunch at complimentary lunch, and Get Ready items will be available, and you can start your own go bag if you have not already got one. And if you do, you should have one for your car and your place of employment as well. So more than just one is needed.
That is always important and more so now than ever. Thank you, Tanya, for that information. We all need to have that ready. I need to admit one other person, and I got to figure out how to do it. There we are. You get to a certain number of people on here, and I have to go to a different screen to admit, and it always throws me off. And Jacob Anderson, you are just in time to introduce yourself. See if you have your camera and mic going. All right, Jacob. Well, Jacob is Economic Development Officer with the City of the Dalles. And at the end of the discussion, Jacob, let's go ahead over to Barbara Telfer, Commissioner with Fort Dalles Museum. And Barbara, take it away.
Well, thanks for having me here. Thanks for interest in the fort, which, you know, is born and raised here. So I remember the fort being around for forever. And actually back when they opened the Anderson House, I had been hired and was the docent over at the Anderson House that first day. And that was pretty cool. The Anderson House is a completely different time zone setup than the original courthouse, more towards the end of the century. And in one of the upper bedrooms, they'd used the Oregonian to paper the walls, which was very common in those days, just to do that. And there was they had taken some of that out and put it up in the bedroom as a display. And the front page of the Oregonian talked about Roosevelt coming to Oregon for the Bonneville Dam and Timberline Lodge. And we had a woman come through that day who said, I was there. She was at his speech and it was like, oh, that kind of is, you know, the history kind of reaching out and touching you. Anyway, so I've worked there, and I've worked at the Discovery Center, and I've done all sorts of history stuff here. So, but working now with the Fort Dalles Museum, mainly I'm using my computer skills, and I'm trying to get all of the artifacts that we have on a computer program called Past Perfect. And I'm trying to match those up, like I went through and got the measurements, because sometimes things are so similar that only their dimensions will really give you an idea of what they are. So we've been really lucky in that we have Bob Pollock, who is now our coordinator, and he has been working. He worked with the Forest Service, with the national parks, for years and years, and retired from there, and was really excited to come here because he's done a lot of history research on the Civil War. He was at Grant's home, the history, which is also cool because having a house that's a museum is a totally different thing than having a building that you have made as a museum. There's a lot of it. So he has a lot of kind of boots on the ground knowledge about how these things go. So he's been very interested in all of that, and he came here because I mean, he was excited because, oh, Dent was here. That was Grant's brother-in-law, and all sorts of little things. So if you haven't been to the fort, you really need to come, because Bob has kind of oriented it to the military history, because that's why it's there. And so we have this beautiful, he did a lot of work on a timeline from, gosh, I've looked at it enough, but 1850, when we first started having military presence, through the 1880s, because then after that, the fort had been handed over, and the history of all of that. So he's done a fabulous job, and if you have any questions, come on up, because he loves to talk to you about that stuff. So, and we've had a pretty decent summer. Unfortunately, it's because the Discovery Center's been closed, because they haven't had that. And so people that are interested in history, the cruise ships, obviously, and they're our clientele, are sort of, they're more interested than a lot of people. Although we've had a lot of, it's been really nice, because we've had a lot of people, we call them local if they're from the state. I mean, you know, somebody will come in and they say, oh, well, we're from Gresham. Oh my God, you're locals. We'll take you as a local. So,
Barbara,
yeah.
Barbara, because these are recorded, we wanted to clarify on the Discovery Center that was because of the Rowena fire.
Yes,
Temporary
the
closure.
fires, and they're open now. Yeah, so we're very happy that they're open again. And we were happy that we could give people some history if they weren't available to do that. So,
Barbara,
yeah,
perhaps since these are recorded and we'll have people listening in later on, they may not know anything at all about Fort Dalles Museum. How about, what is Fort Dalles Museum? I just dropped here
okay,
from the planet Mars, and I've never
sure.
heard of it before. What is that? I'm going to ask that question now. For the record, I know
Okay.
what it is, but I'll ask that question.
Yeah. Well, Fort Dalles Museum is basically the surgeon's quarters, which is the last remaining building of Fort Dalles. And Fort Dalles was just a grouping of buildings around an open field. We didn't have, there wasn't a stockade. And this is showing my age, not like Rin Tin Tin, because we didn't have, especially to begin with, we didn't have problems with the local natives. But, and the fort was set up there to help with the end of the Oregon Trail. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. We are the end of the Overland Trail. So far, I haven't had to fight anybody from Oregon City, but you know, that might happen. And so it was set up there originally. Kind of, it took over the Methodist missionary, and then when Colonel Wright came, he said, no, this is going to be, well, all the forts built in the 1850s, they were going to be the best darn fort in the West, you know, USA, all of that. And so they spent a lot of money and built some very nice buildings. And the surgeon's quarters is the last one of those. It was the smallest of the buildings, because it was designed to be inhabited by a single family, because the doctor was there and his family and children were actually born during the time of the fort. So they had, you know, women, children, babies, all of that. So the immigrants kept coming, and the natives then were, you know, it wasn't too bad when the first trains came through, but they just kept coming and coming and coming. And so there was Indian problems, and so they were sent out. The fort also served as a jumping off place for men and material to other forts and to incursions into Indian problems. So that was, things were going along like that until 1861, and then the Civil War pulled almost everybody back east. And then by the time the Civil War was over, they kind of came back, but mostly to decommission the fort. And it was during that time that a lot of the buildings got burned down. The surgeon's quarters was the smallest building, and therefore its chimneys were all on the outside walls. The other ones were bigger, and so their chimneys were on inside walls. And because sometimes they thought sawdust was a good insulator, they would have a few problems. And I can't remember which one it was, but there was one that was burnt on either Christmas Eve or Christmas night. Anyway, so they decommissioned the fort. They had caretakers living in the surgeon's quarters because, again, it was the smallest one. So it was the easiest one to accommodate. And then they turned it over to the Department of the Interior. And it sat empty, and people would come up, and the Dalles was growing fairly quickly at that point, and they needed material. And so they would come up and they would take boards and metal, anything that they could scavenge that they could use. And so they were worried about somebody, being hurt. And so they were going to just tear everything down. And at that point, the women of the town, who all of them had either been, these women had either been children and had come over the trail, or their parents had been on the trail and they were born here. So they were all very proud of their settler status, and they got together and they formed a chapter of the Cirrhosis Club, which was a women's club that had been in existence since like 1848. And is still in existence. We've had people come off the boats. One woman said, "Oh yeah, we have a cirrhosis club in our town," so it's still in existence. But they got together and they got the fort, the surgeon's quarters, declared a national monument, and they also got the cirrhosis park, the big park, and then they also put together the city park, where at the end of the Oregon Trail, little monument is little stone that Ezra Meeker had placed there on his reverse trail trips. So anyway, so then the fort opened. It was declared a National Historic Site, and then it opened as a museum, the second oldest museum in the state. The first is the Portland Art Museum in 1905. And so we've been working on it, although we found a letter from the governor of the state in 1953 about the fact that, well, it's nice to hear that the surgeon's quarters is going to reopen. So it sat empty for a while, and then because the original Fort Dalles, I can't remember, I'm getting the name wrong, but the
Camp Drum.
Camp Drum was like its first name, but they formed a historical society, the Old Fort Dalles Historical Society, to run it, and they were all these older women, and so it kind of petered out. And then the Oregon Historical Society had gotten involved in it as a nonprofit, and somebody that could kind of sign for us. And they said, "Hey, if you aren't going to do anything with that building, we're going to move it down to Portland and do something with it." And so we got it back, and they opened it back up. So I'm hoping to look into that a little bit. So that's how that is. And then we added the Anderson House. That was from up on top of Pleasant Ridge, and that was done in the 70s. They took a lot of the logs down of the farmhouse and put it on a back of a truck, flatbed truck, moved it here, and then rebuilt it up. The greenery they could move all as in one piece because it was small enough, as they did with the outhouse. But the barn, they disassembled the barn, numbered every piece, and then put it together like a puzzle on the same kind of land. It was a hillside barn. So, and we've got, we've got an enclosed shed and an open shed with vehicles. And the enclosed shed has got 1902 Studebaker, which I found out I read a book on some guys that redid the Oregon Trail in 2010 or so. And they found out that Studebaker was one of the major makers of the wagons that they used coming out to Oregon. So they were in the game for quite a while. Anyway, so that's
Barbara,
kind of a lot of it.
On the cars, what was there? Is there an effort to? I know there was to build a larger building.
Yeah.
Put those more on display, because there's an EV. There's an electric vehicle there, isn't
Yeah,
there?
that's the Studebaker.
That is
Yeah.
the Studebaker. Okay.
Yeah. We're looking into. Somebody would like to help us with the open shed, do something with that. So we need to. We've been working on that, and it's kind of still up in the air. But we're hoping to make some events, because those are really cool older things, and they're the actual thing. Like we've got the Umatilla House wagon that they used to take people either to the when they were trying to get around they go around where the old age is struck.
We know the feeling. Don't worry about it. Nope.
Those words just skitter off. But to get them around the various spots, you'd go up on a stern wheeler until you got to where you couldn't go anymore, and then there'd be a little train or a wagon that would take you around, and you'd go up. They'd have to make the steamships. They'd build them within the area of the river they were going to do.
Yeah.
What, Phil?
There were different sections of the river. Phil, go ahead.
Two related questions about history in the Dalles. One is, what's the story of Mill Creek, and how it got its name, and where I believe there was a log mill here, and is there a connection between the Pioneer Cemetery over by the community college, and how does that happen? Or what's the origin of that?
Well, Mill Creek, there's Mill Creeks. I was thinking about that driving going Mill Creek. How many Mill Creeks are there in the United States?
Dozens.
So yeah, there was obviously a mill there up there, but I personally don't know exactly where that is. But the Pioneer Cemetery is really interesting because it does have names that you'll recognize from being involved in the local history, like some of the steamboat captains, or I know there's at least one is buried up there, and other businessmen who had going concerns. And it's been a while since I've been up there, so again, old brain, that stuff just skitters off, and I can't tonight at 2:00 in the morning, I'll go, oh, it was Captain so-and-so, but not now. But yeah, that's a pretty interesting little cemetery, because there's a lot of names up there that you would recognize. So
we had a fairly recent burial up there. Some pioneer family had a claim
Yeah,
It
they'd
was,
have to.
I think it was within the past 10 years, maybe. And that was the final one. And I don't know what the name was.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
I know Mill Creek, there was a flume that came down Mill Creek and it ended somewhere probably around maybe Erickson's Addition, but that's another topic. That'd be an interesting,
Yeah.
interesting thing
Well,
to
and
explore.
you see those old pictures, and the mouth of Mill Creek was like a mile wide. I mean, it just fanned on
Yeah.
out. So that was that was kind of a problem.
So Barbara, back on Fort Dalles, and let's hear. Tanya, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just had a question about if there's outreach to the schools to help share where they can come and do tours. And I mean, as far south as, say, Maupin, to kind of tour how the area once was and get a better understanding. I know as a kid myself, when I was that age, I learned better by seeing and doing and participating than
Yeah.
hearing. And so I'm just curious what that outreach might look like locally.
Well, we were looking, Bob was hoping that we could possibly get a teacher. We know fourth grade is when they hit the history, the Oregon history for the kids. And that we were hoping that we could get some teacher who could come in with the actual like what they're supposed to be learning, their different marks, and come in and work with us. And we're hoping to like give them a stipend over the summer to help us create a program that would be appropriate for a couple of different levels with the students, because that is we see how important that is. And because your future donors are the children of today, so you really want them to. Plus, it's so cool. It's such a cool place to be from. I mean, you know, to see this, and so yeah, we're hoping to get somebody who has a better concept about what needs to be done. So yeah, we're looking to do that.
Looks like Julie has her hand up.
Yeah.
Julie, you're muted.
So,
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to say that at least for the past few years, there have been children coming in from local schools,
yeah.
Chenoweth and Dry Hollow and Colonel Wright, I think, have all sent their fourth grader classes. And I really agree, Tanya, how important it is to get to the young kids, because I first saw Fort Dalles Museum. I grew up in Sherman County. So we had when I was in the 7th grade, we had a field trip to Fort Dalles Museum, and that's what's brought me back to be on the commission and to be so involved with the museum. It was a really important experience.
You know, a fundamental here, going back to people who had never heard of it. Where is the Fort Dalles Museum? I should have asked that question right away.
It's up on, let's see, 1500 Garrison Street. Is it Garrison Street or?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, it's right near Colonel Wright School, because Colonel Wright was part of it. That's an interesting thing too. Grade schools have their flagpoles in front of their building. Colonel Wright's flagpole is behind the building because that is supposedly where the flagpole was originally for the fort. So
the parade ground for the fort.
Yeah, that was it. So, yeah, well, like I said, we really hope. We didn't get that together in time, we think, for somebody who a teacher, because by the time we got that, most of them have already figured out what they're going to do for the summer. They've either had a job or they're doing this or that. So we're hoping that maybe by next year we'll have enough presence and enough interest. People will do that. But yeah, we do get the school kids coming in, and we try to have extra people there to answer their questions, because man, kids ask the most amazing things. And we get children in with individual people coming in with their kids. And one time we had a guy was in with a couple of little boys, and they were looking at some of the military equipment that's in the dining room in a case. And little kid said, "Wow, I wonder how heavy that sword is." And Bob goes, "Oh, okay." So he pulls it out a little bit, gets a sword and puts it in the kid's hand. And I said, "Oh my God." I said, "It's a good thing he was holding that sword, because he might have hit the ceiling. He would, be floating around." And Bob said, "Yeah." And I said, we have no idea what effect, like Julie, what kind of a thing is that going to, how's that going to affect that kid down the road? Is he going to get into sword work, or just history and general, or so, and that's always a lot of fun to do. So, and we get some really interesting visitors because of the cruise ships. We do get a lot of people coming in, and they have worked in history or this or that. So,
Barbara, we have questions now from
yeah,
Phil, and then Julie again. Phil?
yeah.
So one thing that I understand is happening, I guess I see it's happening, is a curation of the collection. Whereas I don't want to say this dismissively, it was a place where people were handing off things that they had around the house, and we were getting, kind of pulled into the Fort Dalles that really weren't part of the story, weren't part of the history, and now it's being curated. So would you speak to that, and then also perhaps to the struggle of what to do with all this other stuff?
Yeah, well, we're going through. My thing is with the computer and Past Perfect is I'm finding things that we have out, things that Bob has pulled out and and put up. And so I have to find the record in Past Perfect and see if it has any need to be updated or anything. A lot of stuff has been moved around, so I need to change the location. And then I've been mostly taking pictures so we can really be sure what it is. And there's a whole bunch of stuff there that it's like, oh my gosh, pictures of Goldendale, of buildings in Goldendale, stuff from Portland, stuff from, and it's like, no, we don't really need that kind of stuff, or things that are out of the date. And that's kind of what we're really working at, is to try to tighten things up and get it within a certain time frame. So
Something like that Klickitat County Historical Society would be a good repository for those Goldendale photos.
Yeah, and that's a lot of stuff. We would want to be sending things to an appropriate spot. So we would think a lot of the stuff that is for the Dalles would possibly be to the Discovery Center, or any things that have to do with the school, to the school museum. I actually found pictures of my 7th grade geography teacher, and she was teaching. She taught the last year. My class was the last year she taught, and she had pictures from the 30s and 40s.
Wow!
And it's like, why? Why? So,
Julie,
yeah, Julie.
Well, I've been, since 7th grade, been really interested in Fort Dalles Museum, and in poking around in the museum at one point, we came across the original handwritten minutes of the Old Fort Dalles Historical Society, which was started by the Cirrhosis Club women. So they formed, the original thought was to report pioneer stories and record them before they were gone. I applied on behalf of the museum to the local cultural trust organization to get some funding to transcribe these minutes. They're in incredible handwriting, the old-fashioned florid, it's not florid, it's very beautiful and controlled, but it's hard to read these days. So the minutes, it was a small project that I applied for funding, and it just expanded as we found more volumes of the minutes. So I was talking to Phil the other day, who's interested in knowing or looking at some of the minutes. A lot of them have been transcribed already. But the minutes that we have are from 1906 to 1949, when the old Fort Dalles Historical Society just came to an end, with people meeting only occasionally and only a few people. Then there was this gap that Barbara talked about of the 1950s that we don't have any formal minutes from. And partly it's because there was no meeting going on, but we don't know why after the Historical Society was reformed, those minutes must have been deposited with the county or something. But the next set of minutes that we have starts in 1961 and goes through 1982. So those are we have all that stuff. And then I got involved back in 1994 and have collected all the minutes that were taken from there up through the current time. So Phil, whatever you want, I'll put them on a thumb drive.
That was my question, Julie. Those transcriptions, where are they now, and can people access them?
Right, they're resident on my computer and on the cloud. They're supposed to be on the Fort Dalles Museum site, and they are, but it's pretty obscure where they are. And the files that I put up originally were PDFs, but too big it just started costing a lot of money. So I need to make those files smaller. And then the intent was to have them available for study, for public use. So that's still in progress.
Were all of the earlier minutes actually transcribed? Had they been in completion?
A lot of them have. I was looking back through my files, and I can't remember. I guess I'm being too particular about making them absolutely accurate, going back, and I think that I need to back off from that and just put up what we've got and put draft on them so people can have a look. With this handwriting, there's so much difficulty in understanding what word that might be. So there are a lot of gaps. But yes, I'm going to get back on it. And Elizabeth Wallace, our commission chair, has said her mother would be really happy to get back on transcribing those.
Yeah. Well, and people are losing the ability to read cursive, even modern.
Yeah.
You have your hand up, Phil.
I had that issue at jail. Grandparents would write letters to my students when they were in jail, and students would ask me to read it for them. It was interesting to say, this is English, but you can't read it.
Jeez.
Another an event that happened recently, and I'm not sure it's connected. We also in the Dalles, there is also the Winquat collection, which is, I believe, connected to Fort Dalles. And recently there was a repatriation of a canoe that was at the Discovery Center back to its tribal owners.
Right.
Are you connected to that event?
Just that we know about it, and I had worked at the Discovery Center when it opened, and so I was familiar with the canoe. And but yeah, I mean, we voted to repatriate it. That's what you do. So yeah, that was that. Roger.
Yes. Dan, I just sent you an email with an attachment that has a photo of the end of the Mill Creek log flume. I wonder if you can share a screen, perhaps.
Ooh.
Yes.
You sent that to me, Roger?
Yeah, just moments ago.
Okay, let's get back over here. Roger, I'm not seeing the photo. Oh, there. Okay, no,
Attachment,
it
yeah.
just came in. It just came in. Okay, so hang on just a second here, folks.
Yeah. There are two of them. One of them was one of those historical calendar photos with a caption underneath it. The other one, I think, is just the photo. But
Yeah, I'm going to, I've got that on my screen now, and I'm going to go ahead and
Share.
do a screen share. Hang on just a second. Is that showing up?
yes.
Yeah.
There you
Okay.
go.
Oh, wow.
There we are. And
Wow.
let's see if I can, I'm sorry to move things around like that. I need to open the other one. Is my screen still showing here?
It's very fine. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, that looks like a big file. It's loading here.
Yeah.
Hang on. There we go. Is that the second one, Roger?
Yeah.
All right, that's cool.
But that's after the fort, 1886. So that didn't have anything to do with the building of the fort. And I think there was something going on.
Closed in 1904, 1905.
I'll bet this was
And-
down somewhere above Mill Creek around Erickson's Addition someplace.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
says-
Brian Stahl, the former Public Works Director for City of the Dalles, I know he's got some history on that. Let's talk with Brian too about that. I'm going to get back over to our Zoom meeting.
Well, that one building there at the end looks kind of like some of the fort.
Well, it says in the caption it's near the present Colonel Wright School. So
Yeah, so that would be right on the fort grounds.
That looks like the guardhouse.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That could be. The Fort Dalles, there was a district, an historical district or something that went down slope, I think, quite a ways. All right. Be back up here. Other questions for Barbara? Roger, thank you for sending those. That's cool.
yeah, there are other photos of mill on 5 Mile as well in that big batch of photos that I did when I was doing the history mystery at the Chronicle.
Mm.
And you have a tremendous collection of historical photos, Roger.
Yeah.
That's a
And it's
resource.
available to anyone that wants them. They're public domain. Now, I told people when they brought their family photos in, as soon as I scanned it and gave them back the original, then it became public domain. So I've got 2,000 of them. Anytime you want to look at something, give me a call.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's another one we could make a topic out of. Other questions for Barbara on this one? Fort Dalles Museum.
One thing I want to talk about is we've got a project going now that's active, and that is the fundraising for the grant flag. We discovered that the local club, Cirrhosis Club, I believe, they were starting a grant club, and the local ladies here made a handmade American flag, and had been up in our storage stuff for a long time. Bob found the information about it, was all excited about the grant club and that he's real interested in the Grand Army of the Republic, which was the veterans group that formed after the Civil War. Anyway, so we are having the flag conserved, and we will have it framed so we can share it, because it's really neat. I mean, it's definitely handmade, and it's kind of fragile. So we're looking forward to have people help us with it, so we can do a good job and have this really interesting artifact put out for people to see.
Was the Grant Club connection with his candidacy for the presidency?
No, this was after. I think he was he might have already been. Do you remember, Julie? Yeah, I can't remember either because Bob's the keeper of all of those things, and he loves to talk about it, and he's really good. So it was funny the other day. He had a big group from the boat, and stuck his head back in the workroom. He said, "So, did I do okay?" And I said, "You always do fine. I can never. I listened really close to make sure I'm getting. If I ever have to do that again, I can do the
What are
the
the
right
hours?
thing."
What are the hours?
We're open 7 days a week. I think we close for federal holidays, but from 10 to 5. And
Are
the
you open?
last, we close up the Anderson house about 4 o'clock.
Okay.
But yeah.
Are you open through the year?
No, I can't remember. We're going to be closed. We generally close, I think, in November and then open again in March.
Okay.
Because then we get to, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it this year because there's a bunch of boxes that I have seen listed on different things. And so I get to go in and see what we've got. I've got lists of things that we want to send maybe other places when we get to that point. And a very interesting thing when I take the pictures of stuff, and I've taken a lot of pictures of handwritten programs that the Cirrhosis Club did. They like the 1869 storm, snowstorm, or this or that, and they have these things. And when I go and take pictures of them, the picture is easier to read than the actual piece of paper. So it's like, oh, okay, that's good to know. If we're having some problems, maybe we can try that. So, but that's
Julie,
kind of what's going on. Yeah.
Julie, go ahead.
I understand that there's a move to get all the past perfect up on the cloud so it can be available to the public, which might draw in some more people to Fort Dalles.
Yeah. Elizabeth is working on that, and we've got to. And we'll have a tablet so that I can move around, and actually, as it is now, I'm in the workroom, and so I might see. I go, oh, I have a record in front of me. Oh, I used to know where that was, and so I go and look for it, and then come back. And if it's there, I take a picture of it so I can put a picture in and come back. With it in the cloud and getting a tablet that can handle all of this stuff, I would be able to go, especially like I haven't done anything at the at the Anderson house. So go over to the Anderson house and see this stuff and update it. I could update it right there and like just do the whole room or, do the part. So yeah, we're looking to get stuff available through our website. So that'll do a lot of good stuff.
And I have
you mentioned the Rorik House. Is that part of the Fort Dalles?
No, I was involved with the Rorik House too, and that just slipped out.
What makes that the oldest house in the Dalles?
It was built by Moody, a Moody guy. I can't remember because there's a couple of them. For the Lang sisters, he was in love with both of them, but he couldn't make up his mind. So that's what I know about that.
We should do another one on the Rorik House, the oldest home in the Dalles, over off of 13th. Is that
13th? Yeah.
Question: you and Barbara are both referred to as commissioners, and I know the answer to that, but why don't we talk about that? What is the relationship with Wasco County itself? Barbara?
Well, Wasco County,
Or Phil?
Wasco County and the city of the Dalles have been joint supporters of a couple of things. The library was one, and the Museum Commission was another. And this all started when they were getting ready for the Dalles Dam. and they were doing archaeological stuff. They did a museum commission for the natural. They set up a commission and all of that, and then it kind of transferred. That was what the Winquat Museum, and then things like that. So it's all kind of part of a piece.
Jules, what's your perspective on that?
My perspective, yeah, that these were put together to meet past needs, and it's there's an opportunity now to look at how can the organization fit our current needs, and that's why I'm also talking with the Discovery Center in a very gentle way to see is there ways the Discovery Center and Fort Dalles can work together. When I say our current needs, because now a lot of it is tourism, and so we have two stories. We have the military story and the Discovery Center story, and my thought is we don't try to make those fit together. They are two stories, and we as residents here, we live with those two different histories in our past, and we hold that tension. So I'm talking with both leadership groups and seeing where we can go. So it's a work in progress.
I should mention that they're not the only historical museums in town. As I sit on the board of the original Wasco County Courthouse, and then of course there's the Rorick House. If you were going to consolidate, why not get all of them?
You know,
Well,
that's quite a topic. You have those two, Roger. Thank you for bringing it up. The Wasco County Historical Society, the Old Pioneers Association. History has been such an integral part of the Dalles, and so many of these organizations have developed through the years. So, Phil, I wish you well.
Yeah, even keep in mind the Discovery Center and the Wasco County Museum are two separate entities out there.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right. Ernie Cuck being responsible for creation of
yeah.
Julie?
Originally, the Wasco County Historical Society was responsible for Rorick House, Fort Dalles Museum, the Trevitt Monument, which didn't ever get developed, and the original courthouse. I mean, all the historical things were under the Wasco County Historical Society, and then they got broken out at some point.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't either.
I learned a lot on this one.
yeah.
We're running out of time here, folks. Barbara, any parting comments on Fort Dalles Museum?
Well, come on up. Please donate so we can get the grant flag stabilized. God, it's early. And we actually, I think last time I was in, Bob thinks he knows where he can put it up. So that's another big thing, because with a house museum, you only have so much room. And we're looking into ways to maybe seeing if we can have it displayed when we're not open too. So, because it's a treasure.
Sounds like a newspaper story to me. That's a good feature.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, folks. I think with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. You know, Jake Anderson came on from the city late. Jake, do you have any announcements, updates from Economic Development, City of the Dalles?
No updates other than we are still accepting applications for the incentive program. I'm getting some good interest in that program, and we are getting lots of interest in the program for the brownfields. So we've got a lot of projects moving forward, and if anybody knows of anyone who's interested in either of those programs, please get in touch with me.
Will do. Thank you, Jake. And Tanya, thank you for the reminder on Kiwanis Steak Feed. That's a big one. That is tonight, Cirrhosis Park. I'll bet several of the folks on this call have tickets, but if you don't, how do you find tickets? Chamber of Commerce? Anybody else?
I think they're selling them at the site from when I talked to them
At
yesterday.
the site. At the site.
Okay, good. Thank you, Corliss.
Is that 4 to 7 at Cirrhosis, Corliss?
5 to 7.
Okay.
5 o'clock.
5 to 7, Kiwanis Steak Feed tonight at Cirrhosis. Thank you. Other general announcements, anyone? All right. With that, let's wrap it up. We'll see you next Thursday. Thank you, everyone, for joining the Dalles Community Affairs, Chamber Community Affairs, and have a good rest of the week. Bye now.
Thank you.